Welcome back to Your Story Medicine. Today, I am with Christine Olivia Hernandez. Christine is the creator of the Maltyox Method, also known as the Gratitude Method. She's also a self published author, cacao ceremonialist, and screenwriter. Her screenplay is an adapted version of her published book, A Child of Magic, which is a fantasy based on her own journey of remembering with cacao and a reminder to tap into the inner child truth and magic that is within all of us. Welcome, Christine.
Yay, thank you so much for having me.
So I just wanted to first brag and say I've been having so much fun playing with Christine in real time outside of the virtual space. And we only recently had just met. I had the privilege of being able to attend one of her cacao ceremonies, and it was, for me, so magical to see a diverse range of women who were actually predominantly Latinx who
Mm.
as they sipped on the cacao, I could witness a remembering even within them. And you had so lovingly curated this space to not necessarily educate them about cacao and their ancestors, but for them to come into their own awareness and reawakening. And I also felt that within myself. So I just want to thank you for that magic and the medicine it is that you provide in the world, which actually brings me to my first question, which I ask everybody. I would first love to know, what is the land that you are currently on? And in your own words, how would you describe your medicine?
So I am in Topanga. I am on the lands of the Chumash and the Tongva peoples here, who we get to honor and give thanks. And what was your second question?
So, if you could describe your medicine in your own words, what would that be?
So I would say that I am the medicine. So what I bring to others, what I help others with or share with others is like that connection to their magic or to their truth or to mine as well, right? So I feel like the things that I do always kind of include the magic and the medicine. Does that make sense?
It always makes sense. So, I'd love to ask that question because I feel like for people like you and me, there's often a pressure to respond differently whenever we're asked, "What do you do for a living?"
I love
And
that.
I wanna lean more into, like, what is it that brings you joy? What
Mm,
is it that lights up your spirit? Why
mm,
can't that be the medicine? What is it that you live for versus what is it that you do to make money?
mm,
And how is
mm.
it that we can allow money to be a byproduct of living within that truth?
Yeah, so for me, like right now, right, it's the Mattheosh method. And the Mattheosh method is Mattheosh meaning thank you in Mayan is the gratitude method that helps us to get out of our heads and come into our hearts. And that can range from different things that we're doing, but it always incorporates like working with the cacao spirit, with the Mayan cacao from Guatemala, with movement and meditation. And then like other things that I'm creating. So right now I'm working on my scripts. I have two different scripts that stemmed from the book, A Child of Magic. And one is like animation. And then the other version is more commercial and more like real. And there's like history in there. We talk about some intense things. And it's a lot different from the book, but it stemmed from it. But the first one, the animation, I still call it A Child of Magic, is very much what I always wanted to create. Like even with the book, I always wanted it to be a script. I just allowed it to be this way. I talked to an editor, like you should have a physical form before you turn it into a script. So what you're reading is like first the first draft, I feel like, of the script.
Oh, hey, done is better than perfect. So
Yeah.
we're going to talk a bit more about the book, but before we go into
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
tell us more about your ancestral lineage and how this has influenced all that it is you are manifesting in the world today.
Ooh, I love that. So I want to talk about how, like, first I was really disconnected from my lineage and from myself. And actually, I was introduced to cacao, to Mayan ceremonial cacao, and brought me back to remembering because it was from Guatemala. And when I heard that, I was like, wait a minute, my father's from Guatemala. Wait, I'm Guatemalan. And it brought me back to like, oh, my ancestors, to my father, to connecting with his spirit. And so I am of Mayan descent. I am Guatemalan, half Guatemalan. My father was from Guatemala, and my mother is Mexican and half what is it, like European. So yeah, like I feel like I am Mayan, Aztec, and then I'm just like a mutt of other things, a mix of things. Yeah.
So let's dig deeper into that because it's one thing to trace ourselves back to where our ancestors are from, but tell us more about where is it that you grew up? Were your parents connected to their ancestors? And
Yeah.
or we're obviously reading A Child of Magic, which I'm so excited to dive into. I feel like like I would encourage everybody to pick up this book, especially if you are following my work and a part of the Your Story Medicine community, because you're going to see so much of yourself in
Yeah.
this. The child who was connected to the natural realm, only to have forgotten
Mhm.
after being told maybe that they needed to grow up and become an adult and go through all the steps that marks success, going to school, getting a good job, and then passing our time with Netflix and eating in front of the TV, which Netflix is not always a bad thing because, as you mentioned, this is going to turn into a film. And I know that there's so much magic in the arts, regardless of the medium, until it becomes a means of dissociation. So tell us more about your upbringing and the
Yeah.
journey to connecting back to your ancestors.
Yeah, for me, it was a hard journey. My mom was a single parent, really young. She had me at like 19, 18. And my father wasn't around. He was in and out of my life. He left when I was 3, came back when I was 13. I grew up in Riverside County, and just, yeah, fully disconnected to my like lineage, to my ancestors. I mean, so was my mother. My mother was, and so was my grandmother. Everyone from my mother's side was fully disconnected, and I didn't know my father's side. I didn't know my grandmother, but I learned later on that my father left Guatemala during the Civil War, and this is all in the script now, so this is interesting. But he left during the Civil War when he was 5 years old. He came in through Mexico and then from Mexico into the States, and he was actually never legal. And I found all that out once he actually passed away when I was 22. And he didn't just pass away, he took his life. And so it was really, really hard for me when I had lost him at that time, because I felt I lost the ability to connect with that part of myself. I was like, oh, I'm never going to be able to know that side of me. And I felt such a connection to him, like such just this deep bond. Like I felt like I was so much more of him than even my mother. Like I thought he would understand me more and he would just get me. He was also a bookworm like me, and he liked to write like I did. And he was so intelligent and beautiful, and he was dark skinned, and he had these big beautiful lips like I did, and I felt like I looked like him more than my mother. So I just always felt that like, oh, I'm going to have this beautiful friendship with him. He doesn't even need to be my father. And then I lost him, and that was really hard. In my 20s, it was really hard. And so I turned to numbing and being busy, and I was like Lana Olivia, just lost, and like so many of us. And then Cacao came into my life many years later and brought me back. If it wasn't, for Cacao, I have no idea. Like it changed my life. It brought me back to my father, that part of myself. And it was instantaneous. I had a cacao ceremony, and I knew that it was for me to work with. I knew this was my ancestral medicine, and that I got to work with it for my own healing and also to help bring it to the world. Like I knew I was supposed to share it with the world. So that in the script came through. And it's funny because, yeah, in the story, like Lana Olivia has the cacao shops. That was like a dream of mine. So it's in there, but no cacao shops yet. Hopefully soon.
We're writing our future self into
Exactly.
existence. And so Tell us about what the writing process was like for you, because I feel like there's a lot of people who are telling themselves the story, "Oh, well, I didn't get a writing degree," or
Mhm.
"My spelling isn't good enough. I don't have a story." So how was this birthed? Because I
Mm.
also know that it took 9 months for you to write, which was so symbolic within itself.
Yeah. Yeah. We're all writers. We're all storytellers. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect. For me, I didn't get a degree in any of that. I have a degree in sociology, and it's just an associate's, honey. So it's not even a bachelor's degree. But I just knew I got to write, and I got out of my own way. Like, I got out of my own head with thanks to the medicine, because what my ritual was just drinking her every day and diving deep with her. um, and so it started with just a short story, and I had followed the fact that I'm passionate about writing, so let's maybe read more so I can learn in that way. Let's write more, and let's take classes. So I took like a creative writing class, and yeah, I will never say that I'm like a perfect writer or an amazing writer. I'm just a storyteller, just like we all are. And so I just did it and started with a short story. I was living in Germany for a little while with my partner. And then we moved to LA, and I was like, wait, this is supposed to be a movie. Like, I can see this on the screen. It's visual. People need to remember the magic, and they need to see it. They need to see the fairies. They need to see Felix the Fox. They need to see Mother Earth and the essence of the tree and all the elements working with Lana. It'll be so beautiful visually. But then, yeah, the book came through, and I'm so glad to have something physical to give to people now, and for people to play with already with the cacao. Also, like, on top of working with the cacao, you have the book that can tap you into the magic in the inner child. But yeah, just go and start writing. Just do it. Start somewhere.
By the way, I was only expecting to read a couple pages just to prepare for this interview, and I ended up finishing the book in one sitting within 2 hours because I couldn't put it down. I saw so much of myself in Lana and how she would communicate with the plants and listen to them and was friends with the animals, and it was just a I was reminiscing about my own childhood and how I had almost forgotten her. And
Mhm.
it's now in my adult years, in my 30s, after I gave myself permission to make all the mistakes in my 20s, where I feel like I am now coming back home to that childlike essence. And what amazes me so much about you, Christine, is that you have created this beautiful life for yourself. Somebody who grew up in Riverside, has overcome so much adversity, who, when I see you on social media, if you don't follow Christine, I'll go ahead and link that, of course, in the show notes. But it's just so inspirational how free you show up in this world. And it's like, one would never think that you have lived a life of challenges. It's easy to make the assumption that, oh, well, I can't be that way because Christine is perfect and Christine is special. Or maybe you're thinking that about me too. Who knows? We tell ourselves all of these stories and get into the loophole of comparison. And actually, I want to read an excerpt from the book that really stood out to me, which is: Grown-ups are always in a hurry, keeping themselves busy so they never have to feel or think too deeply about why they feel so discontented being disconnected from me. If they paused and became grounded, they would hear me lovingly whisper in their ear. And those are the words from Pachamama, who
Yeah.
is Mother Nature. So,
Mm.
yeah. So what would you say to someone who is in that loophole of comparison or is feeling stuck, or maybe they've marked off all the boxes of success, they have a stable job, they maybe even have a home, they have a family, and yet they are feeling this longing to share their story, connect with their ancestors, and embrace their sensuality.
Mm. I would say that you are a miracle. that you are your ancestors' living dreams come true, and they are walking behind you, and you get to connect with them in this moment by just calling them into the space, by just bringing them up in your mind and calling them into the space and feeling them in your heart and knowing that they're there with you always. Um, that's really important to understand. For me, I thought I lost the ability to connect with my father, but what I learned with the assistance of ceremonial cacao and in ceremony is that my father has never left my side and that he is always going to be with me and he is of me, he is me, and he's with me, living vicariously through me, and was simply just, he was ill equipped to be in the physical form. He was ill equipped to be a human and to be a father, and that's okay. But he's there as my guide, as my spirit guide, as my loving ancestor, just like my cheerleader, just holding it down and will never leave my side. So we get to honor our ancestors, and they are here with us always. Yeah.
Yeah, I received that. Okay, I have another burning question to
Yes.
ask because you are of Mayan descent, and both you and I have talked about the challenges of reclaiming our ancestral medicine when we don't have the elders to pass
Mhm.
this down to us, when we don't have the mentors. And
Mhm.
it can become a challenge when we also don't want to run the risk of appropriating our own ancestors'
Mhm.
medicine because we're seeing a lot of that right now. I'm constantly seeing cacao ceremonies being advertised and promoted. So it's like, who gets to be the gatekeeper of this medicine? And if people do choose to consciously consume cacao as a part of their own spiritual practice, how is it that we can do so mindfully?
Such a beautiful thing to talk about. Yes. So, like for me, I want to share how it was for me because I didn't have any mentors. I didn't even have any family alive on that side of that part of me. So, for me, it was this connection to spirit, to my ancestors, just direct connection, knowing that I get to work with the medicine and that I'm supposed to share it. And so it started very simply with me sharing it with anybody who would listen, and then just sharing it with family and then with friends, and learning like in the way that I could, like the free resources that were available. So doing all the research online and listening to any podcast that was available that spoke about cacao ceremonies and just getting to the source of like the type of cacao that I got, that I received. So and then also going to the place, like for me, it was going to the lands, going to Guatemala to connect and see how I can connect with the ancestors, connect with my lineage and the medicine and the wisdom keepers. So I've actually been there twice as of now and get to go back again. I want to go back every year. It's so beautiful, to connect with the wisdom keepers. And now it's even easier to connect with the Mayan elders and teachers because they're online. So last time when I was there, I connected with a shaman who shares cacao ceremonies and about the cosmovision, and he's beautiful. But more recently, I've been just following Nana Marina, who is doing ceremonies online and sharing her teachings online. So it's so easy now, is I think easier than ever, to learn about the medicines and to learn how to really honor the wisdom keepers because they're still there. They're all there. So you get to honor them as well. Yeah, it's really important.
I've been to Guatemala once, and I was so I felt so connected to the land. My ancestors are from Thailand, and I remember just seeing the faces of the indigenous people, and people were speaking to me in their native tongue, which was, I think,
Mm.
is it Quiche? Is that how it's pronounced?
Kichika, yeah, the Mayan
Yeah,
Kichika.
and I'm just like, "That's I don't understand, but I see you, we're connected." And I'm like, "Auntie, cousin."
Yeah.
And when I went to the Gal, it actually felt like I was back at the Cambodian temples of Angkor Wat. So
Mhm.
there's such a deep connection as well that I feel like so many of us have forgotten because of colonization. We have forgotten our interconnectedness. And so I don't want to use that as an excuse, of course, to say, oh, well, I feel so connected that, I can go and practice cacao,
Mhm.
but how there's just a beautiful exchange of
Mhm.
energies and cultures where we find that we really do have so much in common. And yeah, I feel called to also one day return to Guatemala because
Yay.
I feel like y'all are my relatives too.
Yay. Well, next spring we're going. Like I want everyone to go. It's going to be so beautiful.
Yeah, I also have this dream of going back to Thailand annually to keep that connection. And I know one of the challenges that both you and I have is not speaking the language fluently.
Mhm.
But yeah, I also want to name for anybody else who feels like, oh, I'm not I'm not Guatemalan enough, or I'm not Asian enough because I don't know my ancestors' practices and traditions, nor can I speak their language, is
Right.
that it doesn't make you any less than.
Mhm. Yes, thank you for saying that. Exactly. It doesn't matter. If we're not speaking the Mayan dialect, like, you know what I mean? Like, none of us are speaking the proper language, I feel like.
It's so true.
Yeah.
So tell us, on this path that can oftentimes be inundated with fear and uncertainty, what is it that you are currently doing to stay grounded? And
Mhm.
also, what is it that you have learned to release in the process?
Mm. To stay grounded for me, it's the plants always. Like the plants are here for us and we get to work with them. So for me, it's drinking the nourishing herbs in the morning. I make an infusion at night and drink them in the morning usually or throughout the day with either dandelion, oat straw, nettles, burdock. Linden was yesterday's, and today is oat straw with nettles. So working with the nourishing herbs and having my ceremony with cacao. I don't drink cacao daily. I work with the spirit of cacao, I would say daily, but not drinking her and taking her daily. Um, and other beautiful sacred herbs. I burn blessing herbs daily and use that as an offering to give thanks to the ancestors and to cleanse the space, clear the space. And lately, I've been working with sacred tobacco, hape, which is such a grounding medicine to work with. All of these things are beautiful. So, just like listening to what is for you and what's calling to you. And when we talk about blessing herbs, it's important to know that there are many different beautiful sacred blessing herbs to use. We don't need to use sage, which is over harvested unless it's growing in your yard, like it's growing in my garden. And I love to use that when it falls off the plant, and gather it in that way. And then also with Palo Santo, over harvested and actually endangered. So we get to like stay away from Palo Santo unless you know exactly where that is coming from, and it's really hard to know. But working with other things like juniper or lavender, rosemary is my new favorite. It's so beautiful. Yeah, and making your own bundle and actually burning one leaf at a time. People burn the bundles, and that's way too much unless you're having like a large gathering. Burning one leaf at a time and with intention and reverence to the plants. But the plants are all here for us. We need to know that. Like, they are here, they're like singing to you and they want you to use them. And whether you're taking them in, burning them, or just praying next to them or saying hello to them or smelling them, like just being present with them, they're here for you to ground you, to help you to come back to remember that you are like connected to them. So, and
I
you're
feel
saying,
like I feel like there's a lot of people who, whenever they hear plant medicine, they're automatically equating it to hallucinogens or psychedelics without recognizing that the medicine is always around us. I've had people message me asking me if I do those kinds of ceremonies because I said plant medicine in my TED talk. And I'm like, not that kind. I was thinking more like ginger and
yeah,
turmeric.
exactly.
So the second part of the question is what is it that you have learned to release in this process?
Mm, so many things. And it's such a process, right? We get to come back to all the time. But for now, what's present with me, letting go of, mm, I feel like it comes to like not being worthy. Sometimes it can happen. That is something I really truly learned because I went through a phase first that I thought, okay, the ancestors called me, spirit called me to work with the medicine, and it's of my lineage. Like I know I get to share it. And then going into needing permission and wanting permission from a mentor, an elder who is of my lineage, and feeling like I wasn't getting that love that I really wanted. And then working through that, knowing that I don't need her permission, I don't need, or his permission, I don't need anybody's permission, but I get to honor the elders, right, as well at the same time. Um, but and also knowing that I am like the next elder and knowing that I am the new ancestor going to come through, right? And just honoring that whole process. Um, yeah. And then realizing that I get to do it my own way. And again, yeah, like how you talked about like not appropriating even our own medicines and the own ceremonies that are of our lineage and making my own way and my own type of ceremony because anything can be a ceremony, right, when we do it with reverence and respect and the true knowing that what is ceremony to bring our hearts and our minds together so we remember our truth from what we've forgotten. um and so that's why I created the Maltyox method. So it's really beautiful that I went through that process. Otherwise, I would have never come to where I am now, knowing that I get to create my own method, which is literally this beautiful transformative way for us to get out of our heads, come into our hearts within an hour. It could be so quick. I could be even quicker than that, but like honoring our time and giving ourselves the time to really go through that transition of okay, I'm here. And through the assistance of mind, cacao, and movement and meditation, I can remember right now in the present moment. So, yeah, grateful for all of it.
Oh my gosh, I like want a taste of the Maltyosh method. I'm probably just gonna have to come to your one of your events, but well, let's leave with the audience a ritual practice or words of wisdom that they can take away.
Hmm. Yeah. You want to words of wisdom. So you get to remember your truth by just tapping into your heart. If you don't even have cacao, you don't have any medicines with you now, just closing your eyes and coming into your breath, coming into your heart, and remembering who you are, remembering that you are connected to your ancestors, you're connected to your guides, your spirit guides, to Mother Earth and Father Sky, and that you are the merging between Mother Earth and Father Sky, that you are anchoring the light by just being you and by knowing that you are the light.
Yes. So where can people go to learn more about cacao, your work, the Maltyosh method? How can we find you?
You can find me on Instagram. It's the easiest way to connect with me. Christine Olivia underscore or Matthews Method, of course. And my website is iamchristineolivia.com and there's matthewsmethod.com. So many different ways. And um, you can find cacao on my website. You can find the next gatherings that are coming up. You can find the book there as well, all the different things. Yeah. And also, if you want to dive deeper into the medicine of cacao and connecting with her spirit and learning more about the history and the health benefits and ceremony, you can join me. I have a course online and it's called The Heart of Cacao. So you can go there too.
Yes. If you're gonna buy cacao, buy it from somebody. Invest in
Yeah.
somebody who is actively investing in not just their own healing, but to the ones who are holding this medicine sacred. And so I'll go ahead and link those in the notes. And also, I just want to know when do we get to see this film? I mean, like I want to anticipate like when I
Right.
get to see this magic come onto the screen.
Yes, I can't wait either. It's sitting right now with a very beautiful actress. I want Rosario Dawson to be in it, and maybe that's a secret. I don't even know if I should be saying that, but she has the script, and a couple of other beautiful producers have the script that know the director that I want to do the film. That's the commercial version. And then like the book, if you want to see the version that's very close to the book, actually, that is the animation. And that I'm working on. I'm getting a content artist to work on it. Actually, tomorrow's Thursday. Yeah. And from there, we'll shop the animation. So I'll have a 5 minute. I got to send you the script, sis, because you're going to love it. If you love the
Um,
book, you're going to love the script.
yes, can I play the tree or the squirrel or the dog? I played a tree one time
Oprah's
when
going
I
to
was
be
a
the
kid.
tree, sis. Oprah is not your mama. Come on.
You're saying that Oprah's my competition? I think we have the same Myers-Briggs personality. So Oprah and I, like, I'm expecting a phone call from her very soon.
I can feel that. I'm sure you will. Yes.
I'm gonna be in the animation or the film, even if I have to be a rock.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. I love you.
Thank you so much, Christine. You are the embodiment of magic. You just show us that it is absolutely real,
Mm.
and that if we lean more into play and curiosity and
Mhm.
connection with all the answers that are within us, that all of our needs will be met. They are already met. We are constantly being guided. And thank you for being a reminder to that for all of us.
Oh, thank you, sister. Thank you so much for receiving me. And thank you for doing the same for all that you do. So much love for you. Hmm. Thank you.